The next speaker is Siyang Li from Zhejiang Lab. So she'll be talking about cognitive map-like representations of semantic structure during movie watching.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Li Siyang from Zhejiang Lab, Hangzhou, China. Thanks to the OHBM committee for inviting me. It's my honor to be here and introduce our study. And this report is about cognitive map representations of lexical structure during movie watching. Brain processes under naturalistic stimuli exhibit complex dynamics over multiple time scales. The brain segments continuous streams of stimuli into discrete events and construct narrative graphs. And this graph could affect humans' memory and behavior later. However, the computation mechanism still remain unclear. Experience of external world is encoded internally as a cognitive map by building relationships between their mental representations. Just as navigating in physical environment requires a cognitive map, mental navigation in brain state space would also require an internal map. So this study investigated cognitive map-like representation during movie watching. Place cells selectively respond to certain locations of spaces, exhibiting typical place field with gradual decaying of firing field from the center. And place field would respond before accessing its encoded location, which would cause a backwards coolness reflecting the anticipation of upcoming events. And computationally, the cognitive map could be constructed in form of a computational model, and the successful representation could resemble key properties of the place field, such as place field and this backwards coolness. So in this study, we adopt fMRI data during movie watching from HCP dataset using hidden Markov model on fMRI data of the we explored the dynamic brain states of the cognitive map networks defined previously by our study through meta-analysis and individual network decomposition method. And we identified two recurring brain states with specific activation pattern. Activation in state 1 predominantly involved default mode network and the hippocampus, while state 2 exhibited strong activation in sensory motor region and hippocampus. We also estimated the number of onsites for each state and found it was significantly higher in state 1 than state 2. And higher order region, especially in default mode network, could accumulate information from a longer time scale compared to relevant regions for sensory input. So we guess that state 1 may involved in internal processing, while state 2 may respond to immediately ongoing external naturalistic stimuli. Based on the recognized brain states of cognitive map networks, we performed the following analysis. Having obtained the state on-site series by HMM, we calculated the spatial pattern similarity in hippocampus between occurrence for each brain state, generating this representation similarity matrix. By embedding the W matrix into 2D space, and we explored the representation pattern of the brain state. We also applied successor representation method on the W matrix to construct the cognitive map. Meanwhile, we vectorized the lexical feature of movies and computed lexical similarity of occurring series. And then we explore the correspondence between brain state representation, cognitive map representation, and lexical features. So now let's start with the W matrix. So after calculating the mean value of the W matrix, we found that state 1 exhibited significantly lower representation similarity than that of state 2. And by embedding the W matrix into 2D space, brain state space were constructed in which occurrence with similar activation pattern would be clustered together. And we observed this cluster distribution in both states. And following distance evaluation within clusters, that is cluster size, revealed that occurrence from one cluster were more tightly distributed in state 1 than state 2. By estimating distance between occurrence and the frequency of visit of each cluster, we found that the more frequently visited occurrence cluster with larger node size in this figure tend to be more closer in the brain space. And in this figure, corresponding nodes of cluster distributed closer or more frequently visited in sequence. And notably, this proximity principle was more significant in state 2. Cluster with fewer visits were observed away from the center in state 1, but which was not observed in state 2. These findings were suggesting that representations were organized across occurrence clusters with similar activation pattern in state 2, but there may be occasional exploration of a novel representation relationship in state 1. We next analyzed the lexical feature of brain state representations. We first estimated the information entropy of lexical vector and found it was significantly lower in state 1 than state 2, suggesting that alternating state may be modulated by lexical input. And we then generated a lexical similarity matrix, that is matrix S, and measured the extent to which the W matrix was similar to the S matrix by evaluating their correlation. And compared to state 2, we observed significant lower representation lexical correlation in state 1, but after dividing the state time course into 4 segments, the correlation in state 1 gradually enhanced over the course of movie. And in stage 1, the brain may exhibit internal continuous learning of the external lexical feature, while which were gradually incorporated into the internal experience network. And we then explored how these lexical features were represented in the brain state space, and we hypothesized that clusters of occurrence representation may be constrained by the lexical features in the brain state space. And we extracted lexical similarity within and between occurrence clusters, and we found that lexical similarity within occurrence clusters was significantly higher than between clusters and much more higher than that between states. And this indicated that the brain state representation may mirror the modules on the lexical similarity network and verify that during movie watching, the 2 brain states play different role in dealing with lexical features. And we then hypothesized that this organized representation of lexical features may exhibit cognitive map pattern. We applied successor representation on the W matrix and then extracted place field of the given cluster and then mapped them into the brain state space. And consequently, we observed typical 2D place field pattern. And we also quantified the backward skewness as predictivity of the SR field and uncovered that in state 1, predictivity significantly elevated during the time course, and there was a significant correlation with the performance on picture vocabulary test. Predictive skewness usually of the place field reflects a goal-directed navigation in physical place. So we next sought to investigate the trajectory directionality of mental navigation by fitting the distance to goal against the occurrence order. We found that the distance to go occurrence declined as the occurrence progressed, exhibiting a significant negative slope of the linear model. And to verify this reliability of this negative slope. We also replicated the analyze not only in the predictive clips but also in the non-predictive clips, which is randomly selected. And we observe that in both brain states, space and in the lexical space of the state 2, the goal-directed mental navigation was only observed during the predictive clips, but in the lexical space of space 1, goal-directed mental navigation was constantly observed. This may indicate that in the brain state space during stage 1, the goal-directed mental navigation may follow a higher level on the more abstract relationships. That's all the results. Let's come to a brief conclusion. This study identified 2 brain states triggered by lexical input, and the brain state representation space captures the modules of a lexical feature. The stage 1 integrates the lexical knowledge onto the comprehensive representation network of inner experience and exhibit the exploit of novel representational relationships. And stage 2 responded to the immediately external information. And typical place field pattern of state representation was observed and exhibit predictive backwards skewness. In stage 1, this predictivity reflected goal-directed mental navigation and enhanced significantly, and was associated with individual performance on the picture vocabulary test. And at last, I want to express my gratitude to the researchers who provide help and support for this work, and thanks to Professor Jiang, and thanks to my postdoc advisor Yu Zhang from Zhejiang Lab, and thanks to my PhD advisor, Professor Liang Xia from Harbin Institute of Technology. And this is my email. If you have any suggestions or idea, please contact me. And this is my poster number. We can communicate in tomorrow's poster session. Thank you.
Okay. Since we are running out of time, just quick question for you. We have 2 questions on the app, and then both questions are on the number of states. So some researchers use more brain states using movie data. Why did you focus on only 2?
This number? Okay, actually, can we turn to the slides? Sorry. It's constrained by the spatial resolution, because the HM toolbox we used, it constrains the state number cannot exceed the spatial resolution. We recognize the brain state on the cognitive map network. It has only 7 networks, so the final state number is in the range of 2 to 7, and we replicate our state recognition for many times and find the most stable pattern. Thank you.
Okay, let's thank our speaker.
Okay.
All right.